Welcome to the Operatory podcast, the podcast about burying the dinosaurs in dentistry, moving past outdated technology and procedures to find a better way. I'm your host, Dr. Bryan Laskin, and I am extraordinarily excited to have an amazing person, Amanda Leaveck, on the podcast today. Amanda specializes in helping high achievers slow down, finding balance, and uncover high levels of ease-filled creativity. Her neuroscience-based curriculum, paired with yoga, meditation, earth-centered wisdom, guide all of us to awaken more fully to our already delicious lives. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Amanda.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Well, I have benefited from your coaching quite a bit recently. And, in a time when I was sort of doing many things and really looking to slow down, you've kind of opened my eyes to a lot of very cool benefits of kind of what you do. So if you could just share with the audience kind of how you got to where you are in your career.
In college, I majored in neuroscience and I minored in dance. And I've been a dancer my whole life. And throughout college, through lectures and labs, I would learn very intellectual, cerebral-based information. And then I felt so honored to be able to go into a dance studio later that day and experience what I was learning through my body. And everyone was pretty puzzled in the beginning, like neuroscience and dance, that doesn't fit together. But what I was really doing was somatic-based learning and learning these things through my body. And from there, I got my yoga certification and have been teaching yoga for 10 years. And now I help other people to really understand science from experiencing it and understand their nervous system and how to leverage that understanding to lead a more delicious life. And I specifically work with high achieving entrepreneurs, with those who are extremely successful in what they do and don't really have any problem with, needing help creating a business or finding success in their career, but rather building that connection with their body and their nervous system to find more joy and pleasure out of life.
And it's funny because probably a lot of people who are regular listeners to the podcast are thinking this is kind of a departure from what we normally talk about, which is, dentistry and having a successful dental practice. But it's really not, because I think you kind of hit on what our audience, we were talking about a little bit before we started recording. I think our audience isn't the typical dentist that, might work 3 days a week and then go fishing on the weekends and maybe isn't whatever the opposite of a high achiever is. We probably have a lot of high achieving dentists. And as a dentist, as a dental professional, your work you have to actually physically be doing. And so I think a lot of us sort of focus on this, if I'm seeing a patient, 4 patients at a time, kind of on the treadmill of life, the faster I go, the more successful I am. And you kind of have a very, you kind of opened my eyes to sort of the benefits of relaxation and how that maximizes your performance. Could you touch a little bit, because I'm probably not saying it nearly as eloquently as you will. So could you kind of explain to the average sort of high achiever that is on the treadmill trying to work harder to get more, the benefits of slowing down?
Yeah, we're conditioned to think that rest is unproductive, and that's a widespread belief, especially in Western society. And rest is not only good for balancing the nervous system and for creating more ease in the body. We know that rest is actually extremely optimal for evoking high levels of creativity. And creativity feels really, really good. High achievers, those who are really successful, we understand that creativity, it equals not only a state of feeling really good, but it also evokes more success in our business and our everyday life. So with rest, what it does is it slows brainwave frequency down. And when the brainwave frequency is slowed down, and these are referred to as theta or alpha waves. They're slower levels of communication in the brain. They're associated with high levels of creativity and even, states of flow where ideas and new thoughts just come to us effortlessly and with ease. And we can think of this, if we sit down and we actively try to brainstorm, maybe ideas don't come so easily. It's a little bit harder to grab them. This is because we're in a state of beta brainwave frequency, which is higher level frequency, higher waves of communication in the brain. And these levels are optimal for, our external environment, responding, interacting with conversations. Creativity, true, juicy, delicious creativity comes from slowing the brainwave frequency down. And we can find these levels through rest. And rest can look like stillness in the form of slower restorative yoga, or meditation or visualizations. That's how I would kind of describe that, or start to place the breadcrumbs into, yes, rest is actually productive.
Yeah, I remember when we first met, you were talking about how, it's similar to like a sports. You can tell I'm not a huge sports fan, but like a football player. If all they did was practice 100% of the time, they would be massively ineffective at their job. Or Michael Phelps is widely known as like having massive amounts of rest, and really it's another example that you kind of gave me was an actor who has to practice and then sort of those times of rest to sort of gear up for the actual performance. And I think for me that kind of like made me realize, if you are a football player and all you're doing all day long is running sprints, you're just going to tear your muscles apart and break down. And I think that that's kind of at least the path that I was on as an entrepreneur, and probably a lot of our audience too. So always being in that sort of beta wave space is not going to allow your brain to work at peak performance. Is that accurate?
Definitely. And I love that example of the athlete, because we know that if we're working out or we're lifting weights, if we don't give our muscles a period of time to rest and recover, then we become depleted over time. And the same can be said about the nervous system. We have two branches of the nervous system. One is designed to be more active. One is designed to be more restorative. And if we're always using the active branch of the nervous system, the restorative part of our nervous system, it doesn't really have the time or the capacity to help us replenish and recover and rejuvenate, so that we can come back to whatever we were being active towards in a state of more ease and power and presence.
Yeah, I'd like to give an example that you don't even know about. A couple of weeks ago, you met with an entrepreneurial group that I'm part of, and gave a presentation similar to this. And one of the things that came up was one of my friends was talking about sitting down for a period of time when he was working on a project. And your suggestion was just to take 5 minutes of a guided meditation prior to doing that work for an hour. And he said it totally changed how effective he was for that hour. And I think that's a simple example of how you can incorporate this into your daily life. It's not a massive effort. It's just consistently taking small breaks, at least for me. Does that ring true to you too?
Of course. Oh, I love hearing that story. Thank you for sharing that. It doesn't have to be this big yoga class in the middle of a workday. That's the beauty of this, is it can be, 5 minutes, or even I have a 2-minute meditation I offer clients sometimes, just to close the eyes, breathe, feel the breath, feel the body. I always say, take your body to work with you. And this can create massive productivity in the middle of the day and be good for regenerating the nervous system and creating a bit more balance. So a lot of it just takes the discipline to do it, and the accountability of someone around you. That could be a colleague, it could be a group, it could be a professional, but someone to hold you accountable to doing it, because we are conditioned to think, wow, if I spend these 5 minutes in stillness, I'm not being productive. and I'm not putting my energy towards one of the things that matters most to me, which is my career and my work. When in reality, that 5 minutes is shifting your brainwave state and your way of being so that the next 55 minutes is just completely different and more creative than it would be if you hadn't done that.
Well, and for dental professionals, bringing your body to work with you is incredibly important because for the bulk of my career, I was contorted in weird positions trying to get around people's tongues and like did not have great ergonomics. So doing some type of restorative, not just mentally, but physically is for your nervous system is wild. There's so many dental professionals that have to stop their career short because of health issues. And so I think both mentally and physically. So taking short breaks like this is incredibly important.
Definitely. And I love that it can be short because we're all so busy. There's a lot on all of our plates. So the fact that just 5 minutes can be effective is a huge win. Not to say that, a 60-minute class isn't completely delicious and yummy and impactful, but it just provides options to know that it doesn't have to be that big of a commitment.
Well, and so, I always have a coach. I always am working with somebody. And over the years, I've had like some of the best coaches and mentors, I think, that are walking around planet Earth, because I really do seek them out. And it was funny because we kind of just met by chance because I was reaching out to see on social media if you would want to do some guided meditation for our VR project. And turns out you're in the area, and I would put you at the top of the list of coaches that I've worked with. So thank you for all your help. But in the spirit of like keeping this minimal, I love you have a portal that really doesn't take much for people to get involved. If they're looking for some guided meditation, for some yoga, how can people get going with the Science and Magic portal?
Thank you so much for your kind words, by the way. It was an honor to work with you over the past several months. For the Science and Magic portal, it's an online portal of on-demand classes. And there's yoga classes and meditation and movement anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour long. And it's really designed to help you find little pockets of time throughout the day to connect with your body. And you can sign up on my website at amandaleaveck.com. There's a little link for membership. And that's a really good way to just sort of dip your toes in the water. It's especially good for people who have a really busy schedule and they can't make, live stream yoga classes work with their schedule. So they have to practice at odd hours, like maybe really early in the morning or right before bed or at a random time in the afternoon whenever they can just roll out their mat. So that is, and it's not just me teaching. I work with a pretty wide array of instructors on that portal. It's called Science and Magic.
Yeah, it's a very easy way for, I appreciate the fact that you have like 5-minute yoga classes, because now I do my midday resets to kind of refocus my brain and body. And it's been great. And so I would recommend for anybody who's interested, go to Amanda Leaveck. It's LEAVECK.com. Thank you very much, Amanda, for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.